So anyway, welcome to the Rising Phoenix Business Community. I am one of your co-hosts, Sandy Corrigan, along with my attractive, wonderful husband.
You can say my name.
Tom Corrigan.
There you go.
And my wonderful, attractive
see
friend,
remember.
Chuck Blakeman.
Yes, and I'd like to interrupt this regularly scheduled broadcast to bring you some silly memes to start us off with, just on the lighter side of all this stuff. We just need to keep ourselves going here. So this could have been the best communications, 2020 hindsight, but this would have been a great way for the CDC to start off in March. They could have said things like, let us come together, remain calm. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh gosh.
There's so many things they could have done with this. I just, it's 2020 hindsight.
You would have a whole troop of rabbits following you everywhere.
Dogs and cats in quarantine. Dogs have done pretty well. I've got busy day of Zoom meetings to interrupt. They've done pretty well, but cats are actually actively looking for a cure to get us to go back to work so that we will leave them alone. It's a very different thing for cats than it is for dogs. Here's us, like when the quarantine starts, and here's us 45 days in. Like, I think it's called the quarantine. Is that what that's called? The quarantine pounds? Or the COVID-19 pounds?
COVID-19.
Yeah, and this is actually a coffee. This is a quarantine. It's called a quarantine coffee.
Or a quarantini.
It's a quarantini. It's a quarantine coffee. It's just like a regular coffee, except it has margarita in it and also no coffee. And then, of course, we've got the social distancing champion. For 8 years running, the social distancing champion was Wilson. How prescient was this guy? He knew where he was coming from. Hey, if you guys have some physical distancing relief memes or other stuff, send it to us. Last week, we featured a bunch of stuff from Jim Martini, so love to have you do it as well. We just want to get this week started with some fun stuff. Sorry, just couldn't help myself.
Thank you very much. We all need a little levity approaching the week. My computer doesn't like Monday mornings. It really bogs down for some reason. I think it's bulking, but I actually look forward to Monday mornings. Hope you do as well.
And I just put in the chat box, if you want to tell us your name and the name of your business and your contact information, and then you can hit the little 3 dots and save that information so you can connect with one another in between our Rising Phoenix calls. We always save it on the recording too. So we want to create more and more community. So what are we doing today?
We have actually, we haven't recorded it, but we've heard anecdotally from a number of you that you've connected and exchanged business, which is a good thing to do in community. So welcome this morning. Here's a quick rundown of the format. What we're going to do. We're going to hear inspirational and visionary information from Traci Fenton. You'll get introduced to you just a little bit. This morning, we're not going to introduce people who have made an adaptation because Traci's got so much good information to share with us. We're going to give her a big chunk of the platform. We are also going to do what we call the bottleneck segment, which if you have a challenge, an opportunity, or a problem you just can't figure out, or you're just lost in the woods because of the trees, and you could benefit from the wisdom of crowds, here's the place to do it. So be thinking about that, and you can actually put your name right in the chat box and saying, I'm in for a bottleneck. And we have a 6-minute process to get you incredible insights from the rest of the people on the show. We're going to have a quick update because we have a new PPP plan update. I think we're on version 9 of the plan to bail you out. And we're going to ask then for blinding flash of the obvious from all of you. What you learned today? What's an aha? What can you apply? And of course, we're going to finish with a moment about connecting in community.
So some of you might be new to us this morning, and when all of this started at the beginning of all this change in our new normal, we thought, what better than the mythical bird, the phoenix, to take us into our next awesome time, right? And so the Rising Phoenix Business Community is birthed out of our response to help small business owners and people thrive, not just survive through this market. And of course, that bird, every 100 years, that mythical bird settles into the nest of kindling, willingly, able to burn up everything that needs to go to emerge even stronger. So that's why we called it that. And I don't know, there's a bunch of swag I think we need to create around this, Chuck. Besides our other stuff we're talking, we need to have some rising phoenixes out there. So
Good.
Marlon's on the call. He can help create some t-shirts for us.
By the way, Tanya from Happy Acres Dog Training is going to do one of the bottlenecks this morning. If we have time, we'll get to a second one. So throw your name in the hat there, and we'll see if we can get to you as well.
And we're excited because we're going to have a bottleneck follow-up from Mike Button. And he was at our house actually upstairs doing his bottleneck social distancing and got a call from somebody right after and got some business. So you never know who's going to be on that
So
call.
we'll get an update from Mike about that. But Chuck, we're going to hand it over to you.
Great. Well, I'm going to have some fun this morning. I get to interview, actually watch Traci at work. Traci Fenton is a new friend of mine, a new old friend. It's kind of funny. We've sort of paralleled each other for I don't know how long and really never met. But Traci founded World Blu. If you're not familiar with World Blu, it's an organization that's focused on freedom at work. And Traci, is your new book out yet, or is it coming out?
I know we talked about books. Nope, just got the manuscript in, but Freedom at Work, my book will come out fall 2021.
All right, Freedom at Work. Stay tuned. Yep. And Freedom at Work is a big part of Traci's background. She has a model about freedom at work. She talks about freedom-centered leadership, the fearless mindset, fearless purpose, all kinds of fun stuff like that. And she has something against using fear and control at work. I don't know what her problem is, but she'd rather have people do this by actually desiring to go to work, actually enjoying being there, freedom and organizational democracy rather than fear and control. So Traci, we're excited to have you with us today. What are you going to share with us to encourage us on a Monday morning?
All right, Chuck. Well, it's great to be with you all. Thank you. I'm in Boulder, Colorado. So beautiful day here in Boulder. And Chuck, thanks for having me. I know when we talked so World Blu, we're a global organization. We operate with clients in 100 different countries. Our clients include Zappos and WD-40, Hulu, Groupon. We've had the privilege of being featured in a lot of great business press and working all over the world. And as Chuck and I were talking, he says, well, wait, let's chat about this issue of fear, which is what we address in the workplace. So we talk about how much fear stymies our ability to make great decisions and move forward, especially during challenging times, especially as leaders. And how can we instead lead from a place of freedom and possibility? And so I'm going to share my screen in a minute here, and I want to teach you a tool that I have taught to leaders all over the world. The CEO of WD-40, Gary Ridge, uses it daily. He uses it with his executive team, and it's called the Power Question Practice. So that's what I want to teach you today. It's a set of 5 questions, and Chuck or Sandy or whomever, what I wanted to do was go through these 5 questions, and then if there's breakout time, it'd be fun to go and break out and discuss these questions. Is that?
We will, Traci. We've got people. We'll break them into groups of 5 or so, and have some discussion on that.
Perfect. All right. Well, with that said, let's get into it. So here's what I'm here to teach you today. So the model we teach, like Chuck talked about, is called Freedom at Work. The Freedom at Work model has 3 parts to it: mindset, leadership, and organizational design. Now, I don't have time to go into the whole model, but you can go to our website, you can read all about it. But what I want to teach you today is a mindset practice, because we all know as business owners, as entrepreneurs, I started my company almost 25 years ago when I was 5 years old. I started my company, and we all know it is about mindset. And when you are a leader, when you're an entrepreneur, boy, a lot of things can come up that can try to take you off your game if your mindset isn't in the right place. So what I want to talk about is how so often we're in a mindset of fear, but we don't realize it. Now, when I tell people, oftentimes we're in a mindset of fear, the ego sometimes kicks in, right? And goes, I'm not afraid. What are you talking about? I'm not afraid. But if you've ever felt stressed or anxious or concerned or worry or any of those things, those are all symptoms of fear, right? And at the core of these issues are fear. So when we address the fear, when we understand how to solve the fear, then we're able to see the full range of possibilities in front of us. So according to the Cleveland Clinic and the National Science Foundation, the average person thinks 60,000 thoughts a day. 90% of the thoughts that we think, my friends, are the exact same thoughts that we had the day before. And 80% of those thoughts are negative and fear-based. So even though I know this is a positive group of people, we're all rising phoenixes, we still tend to have those negative fear-based thoughts that come in. And as we go about this morning, I want you to not only be thinking about yourself, but think about the people you work with. Think about your clients. Think about your family members. Because I'm going to teach you a tool that can not only address fear and concern that you may have so that you can make better decisions, especially during this time of great global upheaval, but this is a tool that you will be able to use with other people in your life. So let's get into it. I'm going to teach you this method called the power question practice. And the quick backstory to the power question is when I was in my 20s, I was living in Washington, D.C. I had started my company. I was also a full-time graduate student. I was doing some work for the NASDAQ stock market on the side. I was traveling globally, extremely busy, stressed out 25-year-old. And one day I decided to call a new kind of spiritual mentor of mine. And I poured my heart out to her. And I said, I'm so overwhelmed. I've got so much to do, so many decisions to make. You know, I'm just so stressed out. And she listened and she listened. And then she says to me, Traci, I have just one question for you. I'm like, what? And she said, what would you do if you weren't afraid? How would you solve these problems if you weren't afraid? Now, my first response is, I'm not afraid. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm totally fine. You know, I got everything under control. But as she talked, I realized, well, actually, I do have some concern and some stress about this, this, and this. And the minute I kind of let that thought come into my heart, I thought, well, actually, I know exactly what conversations I need to have if I'm not afraid. I know exactly what actions I need to take if I'm not afraid. I know exactly what boundaries I need to start to put up if I weren't afraid. And so I started to call that question, what would you do if you weren't afraid, the power question. Because when we're in fear, we're not in our power, right? I mean, look at what's going on in the world right now. The whole world is gripped by so much fear. And it's taking us out of our power. It's taking us out of our ability to innovate and to make wise long-term decisions. We're just reactionary. So when we think about what would we do if we weren't afraid and make our decisions from that place, that puts us back in our power. Now, as I started teaching the power question to leaders all over the world, I realized there are some other questions that can get us into this a little bit more easily. And that's what I'm going to teach you today. So the first step is I'd like you to think of a challenge you're facing at work or at home, personal or professional. It can be any challenge. It can be you're concerned about a financial issue. It can be that you're wondering what the heck's PPP is going to be due. We're all wondering about PPP. You know, it could be a personal issue. It could be a conversation that you know you need to have with your spouse, but you aren't having it, or with your child. It can be wondering where you're going to live a year from now. It can be wondering, should you hire? Should you fire? Anything like that. So I want you to get a really clear, very specific challenge in your mind. And please don't sit there and be like, I don't need to do this, because guess what? Everyone does. You will all be benefited from this. Don't mess with the blonde chick, okay? Because I promise you, you're going to be benefited by this. All right. So get a clear challenge in your mind. Now, if you don't already have it, grab a piece of paper, grab your iPhone or whatever, so you can take some notes. I'm going to walk you through 5 questions. And these are the questions that we'll then go into a breakout to discuss. Okay. I'm going to give you 1 minute on each question. And as we go through, I'm going to set a little timer. As we go through, I want you to answer from your gut, okay? Just answer from your gut. Don't overthink it. Try to be in your heart. Try to be in your gut about it. Don't overthink it, okay? Here's the first question. as you think about your challenge, what are you afraid of regarding this challenge? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of what the outcome may be? Are you afraid of failure? Are you afraid that you won't make the right decision? Are you afraid that you don't have enough information? Are you afraid of how someone will react? What are you afraid of? And I'm going to give you a few moments to just jot down your notes on that. Sometimes what we think we're afraid of is only the surface issue. So as you jot that down, I want you to think, well, what's really underneath that fear? I'm afraid of what someone will think of me, what someone else might think of me if I fail at this. Well, what's really underneath that fear? Maybe it's the fear of how you'll feel about yourself, you know? So it's really going deep there and thinking, what exactly are you afraid of with this challenge? Are you afraid you won't be able to solve it? Are you afraid you don't know the answer? Okay. Great work. Can see everyone thinking away. It's awesome. All right, we're gonna go to question 2. Question 2 is, why are you afraid? Okay, why are you afraid? Is it because there's a past issue that you're projecting into the future? Well, this happened in the past, you know, what happens if this happens in the future? What happens if PPP doesn't work out how I want it to and I suddenly have to pay this huge bill back, right? Whatever it may be, why are you afraid? Did someone say something to you in the past that triggers you with this? Are you making up something in your mind? Or is it very concrete why you think you're afraid on this? Great, now we're gonna go to the third question, which is the power question. So, how would you solve this challenge? What would you do if you weren't afraid? If you didn't have any fear, concern, stress, or anxiety about this? How would you solve the problem if you weren't afraid? What conversations would you have? What new innovations might you come up with? Is there an opportunity for reinvention and rebirth here? Is there an opportunity to expand in some way? Is there an opportunity to change something that you know in your heart's needed to change? Sometimes we get so caught up in the fear, we can't even think about what we would do if we weren't afraid. So I want you to really try to think beyond the challenge here, beyond the issue. Release yourself here. And obviously I'm not talking about a reckless sense, you know. I'm not saying go crazy here. We're not talking about reckless fearlessness. We're addressing the fear that tries to limit our full potential. That's the fear we're addressing here. Not the fear that says don't go walk down dark alley at night alone. This is the kind of fear that limits your potential is what we're addressing. So what would you do if you weren't afraid? I want you to really make sure you have an answer to this. Even if you feel like it's not complete, just an inkling. This is the first step I would take with this challenge if I weren't afraid. Okay, question 4. How would you feel without the fear? How would you feel without the fear? Right? Would you feel liberated? Would you get your energy back? I know times in my life when I've been gripped by fear and you just feel exhausted, right? But when you overcome that fear, the energy comes back. Would you feel excited? Would you feel joyous? Would you feel a sense of renewal? How would you feel without the fear? Outstanding. All right, we're going to go to the last question. Very important. Why is it okay to let the fear go? Why is it okay to let the fear go? And this is really, really important because, you know, just like the Frozen song, let it go, right? Everyone, you know, let it go, let it go. But the thing is, if you don't understand why it's okay to let something go, you're not going to let it go. You're going to hold on to that tightly, right? And so I'm a very spiritual person. For me, I can let the fear go because I'm going to trust God. I'm going to trust a higher power, right? That's how I am. But for other, and maybe that resonates with you. Maybe for you, it's okay to let it go because, you know what? I had a similar challenge like this in the past. I got through it. I'm going to get through it again. I'm going to trust this is going to work out or whatever it may be. But it's really important that you find resolution in your heart as to why it's okay to let that fear go. Okay. Okay, Chuck, that gets us to all 5 questions.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a great start because now we get to answer them.
Yeah. Well, back to you. How would you like to do it? Yeah.
Well, I would love to spend about an hour and a half talking to you about all 5 of those because we've got plenty of places we could go with all of this, couldn't we?
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we teach a whole course on this at World Blu. It's a whole 8-week course called Fearless Mindset. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to sign up for that, put your contact info in the chat box to begin with, Traci. That'd be a good place to start.
I will.
So Megan, I think at this point, what we want to do is put our groups together. Let's give about 9 minutes for this, Megan, and we'll just put people into groups of 5 for about 9 minutes. So I'll give you a couple minutes, not quite a couple minutes each, to just briefly touch on the questions. And the beauty of this thing, there's a couple of things about this. We talk about how to make decisions, and decisions are made in 3 steps. Number 1 is make a decision. That's not a decision. Number 2 is put a date on it. That's the beginning of a decision. Number 3 is go public. Tell somebody else. And that's when we actually believe we're going to do something. So this is an opportunity for us to share about something we can learn from these 5 questions and how we're going to apply them. Don't be afraid to go public. This is a safe place to do that kind of thing. And secondly, the wisdom of crowds. People don't actually have to know your particulars. They just have to be with you in the generalities of what you're feeling, and you'd be surprised what you could get out of this in the next 9 or 10 minutes. So Megan, drop us into groups. These are random groups. We'll all end up in groups, and whatever group you're in is the best one. So,
And Chuck, if I can just add, I've done this many times with folks. If it's possible to put people in groups of 2 or 3 rather than 5,
okay.
I would actually recommend that. And then what I'd recommend is you briefly share your challenge and then share your answers to those 5 questions.
Okay,
And
so
everyone gets about 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
So let's do groups of 3.
Yeah.
Megan, let's if you can change that up. She's busy changing the
Sorry, Megan.
Yay, Megan. And
May I, Traci, these are such powerful questions.
Thanks.
I've been doing work with men for 10 years, early Saturday mornings. And we use some derivation of these, and they really get to the heart, because so much of the time the fear is, running under the surface, and we think it's all this, and then it's really here. So I really appreciate, you driving us into a different part of where we spend all of our time, up here. That, boy, and it gets to be really messy up there, and we talk ourselves into all kinds of stuff. So these are life liberating. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Tom, for saying that. I've had people tell me that they've been in years of therapy. We give them the power question practice, problem solved, because it gets at the heart of it, just like you said, and it gets to the heart, not just the head. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
And this is especially critical right now, just where we're coming from, because we've been living in an environment where fear has been the operative way of doing things. The Prime Minister of Norway just 3 days ago admitted that she locked down Norway for under one premise and one premise only: fear.
Yeah.
She had no data. She had no anything else. She says, "I did it out of fear because I didn't know what else to do." And you know, there's good fear and there's bad fear, and that's a very irrational kind of fear. So fear can paralyze us. This is a good time for us to have these questions to give to our kids, to give to our families. So let's practice them ourselves so we can help other people with them. Anything else you want to say before you drop us into our groups?
I think that's great, Chuck. I appreciate being able to share. The power question is really near and dear to my heart. It's transformed my life. I use it every day. Our team uses it, our clients, and I use it with my nieces and nephews who are little. And I think using it with kids is really good. Teenagers to just, I hear your concern. What are you afraid of? I mean, it just opens up a completely different level of conversation. People feel heard. They feel listened to. It's very powerful.
Cool. All right. So Megan, drop us into our groups of 3 and off we go. See you there. See you on the other side.
Megan.
Are we back?
Yep.
Now, don't you all feel like a bunch of techno nerds, even though all you did was push a button and put yourself in the groups? Like, wow, look what I did. Not Megan made it all happen, but we all feel kind of technically adept as a result. While our time flew, there was only 2 of us, and I'm glad because we barely got through it. So I'd love to hear some people share what they learned, what they did in their groups. Don't have to have everybody. We won't have time for everybody, but we'd love to have just some overviews, some things you think might be helpful for the rest of us. So don't just share again what you shared in the group, but what are some things that came out in your group that you think might be helpful for others to hear?
I think that our group, fear is genuinely a mindset. It's a mindset. We talk ourselves into that situation. We think ourselves into that situation. So if we change our mindset, we change our thoughts, we're on our way.
Well, it's powerful that the brain scientists say that James Wilder and others say that the first thing that causes us to change is to change our mindset, is to see the world differently. You change the slide in your head so that you're seeing the world with a different slide. And until you do that, nothing's changed. So I think that's a really important place to start, is to what Xander says in his book, Art of Possibility. Give yourself an A and then write down how you got the A. Here's what my rest of my year looks like. And I'm giving myself an A because these are the kinds of things I'm going to do this year. And it's part of your mindset is change that. It's a powerful place to go. Great. Who else? Traci, jump in here if you got something to share on these
You
things.
guys can put your stuff in the chat box too.
Yeah, I'd love to hear if anyone came up with their answer to the power question. What would you do if you weren't afraid? I'd love to hear any breakthroughs. We had a great discussion in our group and some awesome breakthroughs. So if you came up with an answer to what would you do if you weren't afraid, I'd love to hear it.
Well, number 5 was the word trust. And the word trust is like this crazy daily handmaiden on all of this. You know, that was one thing. So that came up. And then the other thing is, I was going to Chuck's first question is, we've all got something as it relates to fear, regardless of what our own story is. So it's pretty universal.
Yeah, did anyone feel themselves kind of tense up and go, I'm not afraid, I'm concerned, you know, I'm stressed, I'm anxious. Did anyone have that? Because yeah, right. It can be very difficult to go to, especially for men. Love you guys, but it's hard to kind of be like, yeah, that's actually fear I'm feeling. Anybody else have an answer to the power question? Have a breakthrough if they feel comfortable sharing?
You know what? I think sometimes, just being able to talk to somebody, about your fear, it can make it reassuring that, you're doing the right, even though there is fear there, the fear is much small. You make it out to be much bigger than it really is.
Absolutely.
And if you've thought about, what, I think the problem is most people stop at step 2 of these 5 steps.
Exactly.
And they don't think about 3, 4, and 5. And I told this to Chuck. We were in a group. I said 5, Traci. I stole yours for right now. Let's keep it with trusting a higher power. But I think I need to develop a stronger, at number 5 for making the secret of the whole thing work.
I love that.
And I think it goes back to that slide you showed us, Traci, from Cleveland Clinic, around that unless we choose to change our thoughts and our language and, all that entails, we're going to bring back the fears from yesterday because we're still reliving those thoughts of the past around, well, this could happen again, instead of saying, well, what if it doesn't? What if this happens? But it's a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
That's the rumination, right? We all get in it. You're just ruminating about the same thing over and over again. And I really love Jason's point. Jason, what you said, most of us only get to the first 2 questions. If that, what am I afraid of? Why am I afraid? I'm afraid. And it's very popular these days to be like, feel the fear and, do it anyway, or use fear as a motivator. But actually what we have to do is look at the fear, address the fear, and move beyond it. That's the only way you're going to get beyond this and start to develop a new mindset. We teach in our Fearless Mindset course a 21-day practice where you take the power question that I just taught you, those 5 questions, and for 21 days, take a different challenge and take it through the power question. And it really starts to develop a new habit of mindsets, just like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym one time, pick up one weight and be like, I'm in shape now, right? It's developing that mindset over and over and over again. And so let me plant that seed with you. That might be something you'd like to do as well.
Well, my answer to your question, Traci, was I have a tendency to want to try and help people in a way that is not all that helpful to them. I want to get too involved. And so I would just be able to relax and trust.
Yeah, that's perfect, Jack. That's awesome. Well done.
I think only other thing I would like to add is, like you just said everything. Traci, I have to say this, I truly appreciate you talking about this. This is one thing that was on my mind, and Chuck kind of echoed something else also that was on my mind. So I think one of the things you said is you used the word ego at one time. So one way I'm able to differentiate the fear is, okay, none of these thoughts are really me. And I really, truly appreciate you saying the 5th step is the trust, because without that, I couldn't do it, honestly. Right. And the trust doesn't mean, for each of us it's different, but the trust for me has to come from a place that, yes, intentions are mine, but achievement is happening from something that's beyond anything. And my ego is the limiting factor in this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the fear that I'm finding in my commitment to the things that I want to do, the 5 things that are really, truly dear to me, and I'm finding difficulty in being committed to those, is a fear, is a projection of the past. And I just realized one more is the impatience in me, because none of those would be done in a day.
Right.
The impatience in me,
right,
which is afraid that I won't be able to stick with it.
Right. That's great. I love how you brought up the past. 80% of what we worry about, this is proven, 80% of what we worry about never happens. And we are projecting it into the future. And we have to remember that. And it is about the trust. And I love your point too, how these are not our thoughts. If we had more time, what we talk about at World Blu is they're the gremlins, the gremlins, the ego. That's, chip, chip, chip. And I really believe in having a mantra that tells the gremlins to shut up. And I have a mantra that's pretty direct that I say when I hear the little gremlins. Am I allowed to swear on this, Chuck?
Yeah.
Well, whatever said here stays here.
My mantra, and I say this with my coaching clients, I'm like, I want you to have a mantra. My mantra when I hear the little gremlins of fear, I say, shut the fuck up, you stupid ass lie. That's my mantra. Shut the fuck up, you stupid ass lie. Get out of here. I'm not listening to you. And you got to put your foot down, and you got to be firm about it. And you got to say, that's not my thought. That's the ego. That's the gremlin, whatever you want to say. See that you're separate from that and it makes it easier to say, get out of here. I'm in my power, not letting that be in my power. And it really does make a difference. You can come up with your own mantra.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks, Traci, and thanks for everybody for jumping in there.
Woo!
So appreciate it. This is very powerful. We call it when your head goes back to that place, MSU, and it's not going to Michigan State University. It's just making stuff up. We say if you're going to spend the time making something up, make something good up, right?
Yeah. So thank you, Traci. Make sure and put your contact information.
Yeah, please.
Love to hear more about your course and the work you're doing. And of course, I think Megan's scheduling us to get you on our Get Off the Treadmill podcast for business leaders. So we'll get like at least a whole hour maybe with Traci and share that with you guys too. So thanks so much for all that you brought to us today. Really appreciate it. Everybody, yay. Traci.
You're so welcome. And as I sign off and put this all into y'all, I'm putting 3 things here. We have our Freedom at Work Leadership Summit happening next week. It's virtual. We have world-class speakers. And I said to Chuck, I'm like, I just love this group. When we were talking, love what you're about. And I'd love to offer you all a free ticket. So if you go on our website, you'll see the Freedom at Work Leadership Summit. There's a promo code I just put in chat, and I'll also send it out to Megan and she can get it out to y'all. But it's next week. We have Para-Olympians. We have world-class speakers on courage. I'm going to be talking more about the whole Freedom at Work model, how to lead yourself with freedom rather than fear, self-worth issues, power question, and more. So we'd love to invite each and every one of you. And my gift to you is I'd love to give you a free ticket.
Thank you.
I'm signed up, so love to see you guys there.
Yeah.
Thanks for your generosity.
Yeah.
You're so
Hey,
welcome.
Traci, you're welcome to stay on for the rest of the call. You may have to jump off, but we're going to do some bottlenecks next. And we have a bottleneck process, which is, that we talk about the issue, challenge, or opportunity for a minute. And then we have 2 minutes to ask clarifying questions as a group, and then 3 minutes to rain ideas where the listener just listens to the suggestions. But before we jump into that, Mike Button, we'd like you to unmute yourself and tell us about the results of your bottleneck
From last week.
And I'm going to have to say goodbye only because I got to get ready for the summit.
Thanks, Traci.
Thanks, everyone. So
Thanks,
great to be with you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So Mike, can you unmute yourself and tell us the results of your bottleneck last week? He doesn't know how. Hit your space bar on your computer.
Yeah, it's not working.
Okay, or go to your mouse and go up
Okay,
to
let's
unmute.
do this, Mike. We're going to go on to Tanya, and we'll
come back
if
to
you can,
you.
we'll look there.
Oh.
You were unmuted there for a second.
Yeah.
We'll loop back to you and get your
Oh,
feedback.
there he is.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
so could
Mike,
you
jump in.
You have to hold it. Yes.
tell us the results of your bottleneck from last week, if you would.
Mike, you're on.
No.
Yes, you're on.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're live.
I'm on a computer for the first time. You have to hold this button, not just hit it.
Exactly.
We have to. So my bottleneck, what was my bottleneck last week? But I remember, when I was so excited after the call last week, because Chuck had given me a reference and a contact, and the guy's name was Nick, and Nick Zachariah, and he had a program that he used in his business that was just exactly what I was wanting to do in my business. And that's, I can't go to the job and look at all the things about it, but with his program that he used to record and a 360 camera around, it was just really neat to get that information from him. And then he's been a 3 to 5 guy for quite a while too. So we kind of spoke the same language, and it was just, I was just so excited about how it came down from this group, talking about a bottleneck, getting that contact, and whether we do any work together or not, but I'm pretty sure we will. It was so good to get what he had that just fit into my business just like a T. It was just awesome.
So
That's great.
thanks, Mike. Good news. Good connection for you, and thanks for being courageous enough to bring your bottleneck last week. We applaud that. And Tanya, I'd like to invite you to take a minute, and we're going to run a timer here real quick, and then 60 seconds to lay out your challenge, problem, or opportunity.
And so Tanya, I'm gonna hold up my phone and do the button when your minute's up. So go ahead, tell us what your
Okay,
issue.
so
opportunity,
I run a dog training business, and the main part of the business is that we met in groups. Silver lining to this pandemic is that something I've been wanting to do was done, and I got my classes online. And while people were at home, that was great because they were finding me on the website and they were signing up for these online classes. Now that people are starting to go back to work and do stuff, I'm finding that the sales of these online classes is diminishing. And so I wanted to reach out and find out, are there best practices for advertising and keeping the sales of these online classes going? I do advertising. I've mainly done Facebook and Instagram, but are there better ways to reach a large audience?
Great. And now we're going to give 2 minutes to ask clarifying questions, and Tanya will be able to answer you. So go. And you can put it in the chat box too.
Tanya, are these classes that are as easily administered out of your own experience now online or otherwise, based on how they once were in this interim period online, and then going forward, is an online thing a new possibility? Or
Yes, it is a possibility. There are some trainers out there that have a large online business. The drawback to online is that you don't have the one-on-one or the someone that's actually watching you work and go, hey, if you do this, or watch your hand, how you're moving or luring your dog. You don't have that online. So you can see it, but you don't have someone saying, this is the mistake you're making.
okay.
Tanya, have you ever done an Instagram live chat? Because there you can interact with people.
I have not. So I will write that down as an option.
Tanya, are the classes, they're online with you? Like, is it a group of people or is it individuals or?
So I've videotaped the online classes, some of them, and I do like Zoom meetings, private lessons, one-on-one with people. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Tanya, I have like two quick questions. One is, have you actually put thought into this, that doing this Zoom online training, what's the best benefit you can offer in the new way of being, rather than just the training itself, because it's a way of rethinking, right? And the second quick question was, okay, are you willing to just go out and do it in person? Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now, Tanya, and again, you guys can put suggestions in the chat box. You're going to mute yourself. We're going to give you 3 minutes of suggestions, and go.
I think if the challenge, Tanya, is the lack of interaction, and that's a drawback, then the top 5 questions for anything you're doing. Just say, here's some questions that typically come up. Let me go ahead and address them. If you have a different question, feel free to reach out to me. So now there's a call to action. It's an invitation to directly interact with you.
And Tanya, like one of the quick suggestions would be along the same line what I was asking is, okay, I think it's a time to rethink, what does training mean in these times? Because now that we are not meeting in person that often, so what do these people need? What do these dogs need? Right? Because it can't be the same training that we did in person to person. It has to be different. We have to find a different solution that contributes to the dogs and dogs owners' lives.
And Chuck, maybe you can comment on this, because Bree Blakeman does this. She was on our Rising Phoenix call. You might go back and look at that episode. I can't remember which one it is right now, but she was talking about the benefit of actually watching the owner with the dog, and she wasn't the distraction anymore, like when she was in person. So, maybe even connect with her and say, how are you articulating that benefit? Because you might even be able to up your price and up your game and up your income doing more one-to-one interaction with people as well.
John.
Tanya, I don't know if it's helpful, but I just Googled online dog training, and there's about 4, 5, 6 really good sites there of people that are actually doing it. Paw Perfection Dog Training. I'd send you a few links, but I'd say Google and see what other people are doing that have that has been successful, and then see if you can model some of those.
Thank you, John.
Tanya, also, if you just go to YouTube and research the different dog training things on there, it might give you some ideas on how you can deal with it, your individual thing, how you can formulate your own individual uniqueness.
And there may be some people on this call and in other places that work out of the country that are very reasonable in terms of posting Facebook ads, Instagram stuff, like the marketing piece. You know, when we talked about you have to do it all right now, that you could allocate some dollars towards helping other people actually promote this for you.
Last minute suggestion.
16 seconds for one more suggestion.
Come on, Connie, you always have great ideas.
Okay, well, here's the deal. Tanya, we want to invite you back next week so that we can hear what you may have implemented or thought differently about. So thank you for
Christy
being.
Christy said live on Facebook and Instagram training sessions might help as well.
Yep.
Love it.
Just want to remind you that there are many people on this call who are part of a 3 to 5 club. It is a group of business owners, up to 24 people, who share community and connections and great content. I really believe it's the stuff that Chuck's written over a 2-year period is equivalent of a way better master's degree in business management than what we can get in school. And we have opportunities around the world. So go to 3to5club.com for more information.
Yeah, we'd love to have you join us virtually or face-to-face if you're in Denver, but we have clubs in Ireland and all over the country. So let's get you plugged in so you can experience that. And also I want to remind you that the latest version of our Surthrival Guide is always on the Rising Phoenix Business Community site. We encourage you to go there and put your email in. We're not going to spam you or upsell you anything, but when you go there, it's just an opportunity for you to always get the latest version. And so,
version 9 will be out today with the instructions on how to actually go through the forgiveness process.
awesome.
Forgiveness is good.
Yeah.
So we're gonna finish with BFOs, blinding flash of the obvious.
Well, I wanted to say one quick thing about community.
Please do.
And that is, we need your help to be able to grow this movement of community. And so we think about just even one person that you might think about connecting with this week individually, and invite them to this call-in Monday so that they can experience what we're all experiencing, because we cannot do this alone. We can't create this awesome new reality without one another. And so let's get our arms around people who are today afraid and who are maybe also saying, I don't know, and I need some people to help me figure it out. And now let's do some BFOs.
John, you got a BFO?
I have a quick one, just that I need to ask more people. Dervla Graham has popped on today, and she's a great person living in Waterford. So ask more people. I mean, share this call.
Thank you. Anyone else? BFO.
Okay, I got one. Fear limits our potential.
Great.
Thank you.
And
that's the
Connie
truth.
said, research different ways to do video, from close up to video cam on the dog. So another suggestion in BFO from her.
This is Connie too. I also noted that Tracy's question number 5 was just disconcerting enough to be useful. Like, oh, you mean you really could let go of the fear?
Yeah.
Just the idea that you could actually do it is, oh, wow. Never thought of that.
We got to stay in a scale of 1 to 10. We got to stay in 5, 6, 7 of fear and anxiety, or call it whatever you want. We call it disorientation, because that's only when we learn, is when we are out of our comfort zone.
Anyone else? BFO.
Chuck,
would
like
say-
you got a BFO today?
Yeah, I would say mine is a reminder for myself to fear the probable, not the possible. Fear, irrational fear, there might be a bear in the woods, I'm never going hiking again, is paralyzing. Fear of the possible or fear of the probable, hey, there's a bear 50 yards in front of you. Healthy fear. There's two kinds of fear, and one of them is healthy, and the one we spend most of our time with is the irrational fear of the possible. Here's all the things that could go wrong. I'm never going to do anything.
Yeah, we should put that chart up because you actually can die from playing table tennis.
If you try hard enough. Yeah, and I have a friend who says we're all going somewhere and we're either carrying luggage or baggage.
That's our quote.
That's
Awesome.
great.
Thanks, you guys. It's been great to be with you again. We hope you'll come next week and bring some people with you. And if you got a great story or bottleneck, go to grow@3to5club.com and let us know that too. So any other quotes you want to send us out with? Chuck?
That's great. No, that's it. That's a good one. Bring your luggage, not your baggage.
There you go.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Have a
Way
great
better party. Have an awesome day.
Thanks.
Bye.